능 시카 노코 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 거시 딴딴
not. Okay, it is close enough to time. Okay, I'll wait just a few more seconds before I really start rattling off in case someone is being, that punctual. Yeah. Hey, now that there it is. It's 6 o'clock. Okay, well, never mind. So yeah, huh. Time for that update, I guess, for our weekly update. And yeah, welcome to Project Exploration, of course. But now we're like gonna be getting full swing into things, because as it turns out, I managed to finish everything for ICOM already. The tests that I had left over, I thought would probably last up to a month, like I said, but it actually only ended up to be about 2 weeks, and here we are, we're done. So let's take a look at where we left off last week, right? So what I was working on last was the the home screen here and redesigning it into this nice new look. Let's go ahead and temporarily hide Pumpkin here because we don't need her twice on the screen. And let's turn her on. Hey Pumpkin, how you doing? Oh, and you can see this little guy right here. She can't even hear me. Hey Pumpkin, how are you doing?
I may not have ears, but I can sense the vibes. I'm doing gorgeously, thanks for asking. Ready to help Schooled crush this stream and squash those bugs.
So basically, we managed to set up, finish the last task list, but I also managed to finish the color picker we were looking at last. So we had the background color and we were doing, setting the background color here, and now, you can set that. We can have like, you can make it red. And there you go, it updates live in real time. And if we were to put Pumpkin back on the screen, you'd see red. And you can see the transparency now also going through with that. So if it's full 255 or 0, there you go. You can now input these values to set the background color of that, which is pretty fun. And yeah, normally I have it at, well, I don't even know why it was that color because that's not even the color I want it at. I actually do want it to be just black. That was the default color. I never changed it from. But there you go. Now we get a nice, clean, transparent Pumpkin for the stream, which you can set up in OBS pretty easily. But you could also now, toggle the view with that, which is also the escape key, or hide and show these controls here. And of course, pan. Whee! You get all your controls for setting Pumpkin. There's a reset button here to reset the overall view. There's also one here just in case. So you can do the typical zoom out, reset back into place. In this case, we just want, of course, Pumpkin to be nice front and center like the yacht. It's a little touchy. I probably maybe should have done something with that, but I don't know. I decided to go against mouse controls because it was just overkill. Like the touchable ones are good enough. That didn't really need to have all that. Yeah. Besides that, let's see, what else did we have in the task list? There was a bunch that got done that we can probably highlight too. So I did some fixing. Oh yeah, I must just point out that. Let's go ahead and pull up actually. Not that. Well, at least not that yet. We'll get to what's going on there in a second. There's some funky business that happened there.
Fix your fucking microphone.
Oh, I forget why she says that. Oh wait, that's my own fault. I failed to put something in. So yeah, there's the statements when she can't hear clearly that it will now say, and they're turned on, which I should probably turn them off. But there's also in the dbtails, if we go to unclear responses, that was one thing that was added. I had left a debug one in there, which was not so family friendly. So let's go ahead and just remove that. But more importantly, let's just turn it off because we don't want her responding. So where is it? That toggle is somewhere. Configuration. So use unclear responses. Boop. You can turn it off. We don't need that. Okay. But yes, pulling up ICOM, so I can show you some things that I had to do for fixing some problems. Well, not even fixing. It was just more trying to find what was going on. So in the unit test window here, we have vectors that I was starting to bang out in tests. I ended up writing this little thing where personality and history vectors, it'll print out what the values are, the statement and its encoded value. This can be pretty heavy on the output, but it was actually necessary for doing so. But you can also put in a string here and then check against, either personality or history, tables. And what this will do is actually like encode the string too using the engine, of course, and then check against it in the vector database just to verify the integrity of the database. And so, it says, okay, the string is in a database, and the string does match encodings, and, it'll return true if, of course, it's all good. So that was something I used to verify that things were actually getting, okay and working the way they were. It just turns out that sometimes some encodings don't want to match up for some reason, either because it wasn't trained on it, or it doesn't understand what the sentence is or the meaning of the sentence. So it ends up with a lower score than what's in the database for some reason. Like, I don't understand how that works, how it can't score correctly with itself. And, just from a slight difference, basically. But yeah, so that's what's been happening with that. And there was Discord voice sending, and just the things that we were, banging out the test stuff with. But yeah, that concludes it. That's all the features that I plan to do for now, because I want to move on. I don't want to keep working on this if nobody's interested in it very well. So, let's get to the exciting things, I guess, right? Other than having Pumpkin sit here and if people, start to like Pumpkin and then start to want our software, maybe we can come back to this someday. But right now, let's just go ahead and put her there, and let's go ahead and get the shot out of the way. But yeah, the finalized thoughts, though, like of other things that were released in versions, there was the media lock toggles that were added. There's clear wording for yeah, one thing that was changed up was a lot of the wordings and things. But like more importantly, in the ACS, which is a very complicated system itself, the wordings in here were all cleaned up, and then of course we have this new fancier drop down. Where the command can match against, it can contain the phrase, it can have an exact match of the phrase, it can just start with the phrase, or it can match by score, which is the vector DB stuff. So that's new to that, and there's your score value if you do so. But then you can also, these things were cleared up where data type now is that value type is, instead of what it was before, I don't remember now because it didn't make any sense, but now it's a specific value, which you can set then a specific value, or user input, which this is, currently set at, which, means like whatever is passed in with the command, that's user input. So that clarifies, what's going on there, makes it a little easier to understand. What else actually got changed up recently too? Oh, right, there was one other thing in integrations where the ICOM API, which is actually something we're going to also talk about today because Pumpkin here has an API that can be accessed, and it's on and enabled, and that's how I can actually now use my keyboard to turn on and off. But now you can do things like where if I type sound like this in
Skill
the
issue.
chat, users, you guys can trigger her to do that. If you use whisper, how are you like this, you can ask her specifically.
I'm
"How are
gorgeous.
you?"
Thanks for asking.
And this works from both Twitch and YouTube, so it's fun stuff. Or you can do say, you're a dork. So
Chiba Schooled says you're a dork.
there you go.
Schooled says you're a dork.
So, there's a little interesting double up because I'm using well, that's no hidden secret about Restream IO. So Restream is sending the same command from me to both chats, but then the software is seeing from both chats that I said you're a dork, so it's triggering it twice. And yeah, in one platform I'm known as Chibi Scold, the other platform I'm just Scold. So there's what happens. But yeah, we can do a lot more with that. And if anybody has suggestions or ideas, like let me know. We can probably cram in some stuff in there. And plus, we got usual other things where bits and things, subscriptions and stuff like that. If you do those things, there's other reactions that happen. So yeah, fun. But yeah, that's enough about ICOM. Yep. I guess all you need to know at this point, that is the software that runs and operates Pumpkin. So let's now begin the exciting stuff about project exploration. What the hell is it? Why am I doing it? What are we doing here? First, just to reiterate once more, this stream is always going to start with our our weekly update, our weekly recap, and any updates to the project that included ICOM up until now. Now that ICOM is done, now you're going to be hearing stuff about project exploration. It's generally the weekly recap for Studio Jaw and what we've done over the week. And now
I did not hear you clearly. Check your mix settings or check if the accepted quality is set too low.
You're not supposed to be doing that. I use unclear responses is off. Why are you doing that? Well, I'll tell you what we'll do here then to fix that real quick is just doop and then doop.
Good morning. I am ready to talk with you.
Fixed. But yes, so what this is it's a weekly update, of course, for Studio Jaw. But then after that, it is workshop time. So right now we're just kind of doing an obvious explanation. This really counts as update of what's going on. But the second part of the stream and the larger part of the stream is workshop time. This is where you guys can ask me questions, anything you want about the project, about Studio Jaw, about even myself. I don't care. This is my time with you, your time with me, and let's make the most of it and whatnot. This is what we're doing here is trying to make a game together. This is we're gonna work on projects. You can suggest projects. You can join the Discord and suggest projects. You can ask for help on things that are related to this project. So say like if you want to know how to do a certain thing with shaders or a certain thing with Unity and it has something to do with the stream, I'm happy to set up a workshop that we can run through that process of how to do that task here live on the stream. And yeah, feel free to ask me about any of this stuff. Now, what I've been up to today since this was the first day I actually got to work on Project Exploration entirely, is a lot of planning. And we're going to be doing a lot of planning, because the goal here, and you might think I'm crazy, but our goal here is to create a AAA quality game. We're going to push the limits of what we can, either of Unity, of Unreal Engine. I'm not 100% locked in to Unity yet. But that's the other thing, you know. I've been watching a lot of stuff lately about old video game history and how games were made back then, about things that were said about their design choices, their design concepts. I've been watching some other fellow YouTubers, which I do, you know, everyone does. We do. That's the whole point, is to watch other things and be inspired by what they do, or even be motivated by what they say and their things. I'll admit, one of the things that kind of gave me the idea to be a little more concrete and hard on planning was actually watching Winter Garden. Watching what he does with his Winter Garden Wednesdays, which ironically here I am on a Wednesday. This was originally supposed to be Thursdays, but we decided to stick to Wednesdays because Thursdays we decided to keep with Jokin's AI friends, because they still want to do the weekly World Hub. They just don't want to stream it anymore. So that community will still grow. Jokin will still be in the pug, and you know, if you care to support keeping her in the pug, then contributing to the studio will just do the same. But yeah. So I want to be very meticulous about this, be very careful, be very thorough, and I want to engineer what I feel is a game everyone will enjoy and love, and I want input from people for explaining that. And what I'm about to reveal even are the introduction plans to that project. So I guess get ready for this, because now you're about to know what Project Exploration is supposed to be and what I'm aiming for and what I'm trying to make here. And this is what is called a wireframe. I don't know, some other developers and some other certain people out there may also call it a design. No, I'm not sure. I'm actually drawing a blank. A certain Pirate Games person. He has the design something that he calls it. But and the way I've always traditionally called it, and when I'm planning the stuff out with other companies, we've always called it a wireframe, or a project plan. So that's what I've been working on today, is building out the wireframe. And what we're starting off here with, and I don't want to go through like this with a fine-tuned comb, because I mean, it'll be boring. I guess if people ask for it, we can, I can always put this out there. This is meant to be public, because I mean, this is what we want to flesh out and build out, and that's the key point of this. This is something we want to eventually present to an investor. So the wireframe, this document, is not just a wireframe for the game and a project plan for the game, but it is also a business plan. It is also what we've decided, or what we'll decide to do with this project, and we'll edit this and fine tune it and bring out concepts more and more as we develop them. So as you can see, this has like descriptions of things like what's the concepts and inspiration of things, what's the art style, what is the music and sound effects, what's the basis of those, what is the gamer experience going to be, what is the UI supposed to look like, what is their progression supposed to look like, and then I usually add a project outline which is basically that plan. It's like explaining what we're going to do to follow, to execute this, wireframe. So first, I want to start with a project objective, of course. Our objective, like I said, is to create a AAA quality game with the guidance of you all, the community, for the intent of, for me, gaining financial stability, because that's why I'm doing this. Let's be real here. I'm not like seeking help. I'm not being like, oh, please help me, please help me, please help me. But I am doing this because I need something that shows what I am capable of doing. And as it says, this means I am doing this for something to help myself stand out as a game developer and software engineer. I need something that better puts me out there in front of people so they can see what I'm capable of doing. This is to make me more marketable, and that's the first hopes, is that it could get me a job. In best case, I'm doing this to help myself get a job. In best case, this becomes a thing. We take off as a studio, and we publish this game, and it sells, and we make money. We carry on as a studio, and we can start expanding, then more than just myself. I have friends and moderators and people around me who are kind of indirect staff, I'll say. They're not direct staff to Studio Joe, but they have helped. Basically, they helped in many, many different ways with AICOM when developing that. Obviously, the person I'm living with is helping by, letting me live here. I don't have a job, and this is what is supposed to be helping me get that job. And another thing of why I don't have a job is because I do actually, and this is a bit personal, but it is needed to be said in this context so people know why don't you just go work for McDonald's or something. There's two reasons for that. The one reason is because I'm usually considered overqualified. Anytime I apply for a job like that, I get rejected or ignored or whatever because of they think I would be bored, or they can't, whatever. The second reason is because I have degenerative disc disease. My back is terrible. Nobody wants to hire somebody with a screwed up back, essentially, especially as bad as where mine's gotten. So that's the other reason why I am not looking for those kind of part-time jobs. The third reason I should actually add, which I know I said there was two. The third reason is professional integrity. I've studied all my life. I worked all my life to be here, to be a game developer, to be a software engineer. It just seems demeaning to have to go back and work a non-related job completely out of the field. As some people might know, I last worked with Experis as a game tester, and it was for very short. It was it was just for a month. It was supposed to be a 3-month contract position, so it wasn't even really permanent. And when the incident occurred, they actually did offer me to try to help me find another position within Experis, but I declined because it really did feel inappropriate for me to be in that particular position. What had happened is I made, and let's be real here, I made some comments about Band-Aid code, and this rubs somebody in the company that I was subcontracted to, and at this point it's no secret I was subcontracted to Amazon Game Studio. Somebody there didn't like what I said, and there was no argument, no ifs, ands, or buts. They didn't explain what it was I didn't like. They didn't explain what was going on. They didn't explain whether it was because I mentioned Blue Protocol or not. All of that, all that Experis was told, and what was relayed to me was that we're terminating you because because of your post that you made about Band-Aid code, and that's it. That's all they told me, and that's all they're legally apparently obligated to tell me. And so I don't know what the hell happened. That post was on my main page, but I decided to get rid of that because this is now that blog in essence. I thought I was doing that for the same purpose that I was doing this. I was doing it in hopes that it would help me stand out and be more marketable, that it would be something that people would like to read and follow and understand my thoughts and notes as a senior engineer about things like that. And yeah, I don't like Band-Aid code. I don't even like Band-Aid software, honestly. And the other part that was not articulated with that was that sometimes you just have to. I get it, but let's not. Let's try to do our best to avoid it. And whatever, someone didn't like this statement, and yeah, that's what got me let go early on that contract. Essentially, I was a nobody to them, and they didn't care. Is basically it. So that aside, I just find a lot of things in the gaming community disturbing. That's starting to lead into that trend. People are going for the cheapest and simplest way of doing things, even if it basically ruins the integrity of their game and their brand. And I think people need to start focusing on having better developers, or letting developers grow better, and teaching better habits, so that way these to bring back the integrity of video games. And that's part of the inspiration to this. That's part of the reason why I was looking at how older games were made, what inspired some of my favorite games to be made the way they were, and why they are my favorite games. Because I grew up, obviously, I grew up in 1983. I was born in 1983. Let's just put that out there, right? That was the year the Nintendo was released in the United States. So I grew up with video games. My first console was still just an Atari, because we hadn't bought a Nintendo yet for our family. But, I've been playing video games essentially before I even could comprehend them properly, before I even knew how to play games properly. And it's been my life, essentially. But there are games that to me were very powerful back then that I feel like a lot of these games miss now. They don't have that, as one of my coworkers, while I was at Experience, put in it. Games are missing the soul in them. They don't have the soul that these older games had, and that the people who made these games poured in, that much effort into these games and making them. So I want to bring that back in a way with this project, by making a game that has that feeling again. That is something that that I pour myself into thinking properly and working on. I seem to have forgotten to turn off system sounds again. So let's do that real quick. Wee, boop. Okay, but moving on past the project objective, now the project summary is basically, now we're getting into the game and what the hell the game is supposed to be. So, less old dribble drabble and waxing awning of whatever. And okay, get into the summary of things. So Project Exploration is an adventure game designed to return to the fundamentals of game development, as I just explained. It will be a game for players of all ages. That's a key importance here. I want a game that will be there, that, you know, that is that game that was for me, that was like, you know, Legend of Zelda, the first one, or Link to the Past, or whatever, you know, that inspires children, that you know, engulfs them into wanting to make games themselves, or just simply enjoy the game and its experience. But like, yeah, the point of this game is that what I want is a single player focused, with optional 4-player party play. If 4-player party play, the party will then be able to access instance dungeons, which will be different based on single player or multiplayer modes. Multiplayer will have different difficulty scales and puzzles, of course, which the dungeon can be challenged at. So this means basically, like, I kind of want, what I'm thinking here in that aspect is that I kind of want to bring, like, I want to bring The Legend of Zelda as that style game, mix it with Phantasy Star Online in a degree, to create that hub-based, but not really type of, but in this case, adventure game, not really RPG. There will be RPG elements that I want to add to this game, but I want it to be more adventure focused. So in some ways, that still might make this an action RPG, because obviously, like, to scale the difficulty, you're going to have to be able to improve in some way. So there we go. Okay, so basically, you will have to have some kind of means, and I'm already considering some ways of doing so. Some means of the player to have to gain strength beyond the base, game, in essence, so they can progress from level to level, or, you know, through difficulties of the game. And there could be some kind of, but I'm not going to get into the details of that yet, because I mean, we can discuss and decide this further or later, but essentially there needs to be something, though, and that's all I'll say for now, that scales the player beyond base player and abilities. And obviously, like, the Zelda part of this, I'm doing here, I do want to, as a nod back to, as a whatever, lost for words, I guess. I don't know how that, but I do want to make reference to Zelda by having hearts for the health. So of course, like, you know, we're gonna have the player go collect health items. What those are going to be, they're definitely not going to be heart containers, but they're going to be items of some sort. But the representation for health will be hearts, just to, you know, give that look or whatever back to Zelda for that. So dungeons will have different variations, which I hope, with procedurally randomization aided design. What this means basically is that each dungeon will always be different when you go in it, but not always. Similar to PSO2 and similar to Path of Exile, they'll just be different variants of the dungeon, but there'll be enough variants that it feels random, and that's what I want to focus on doing. But there will be a procedural generator as a tool that I will be writing and creating for creating the dungeons. Then we'll store the results of ones that we like as variations. So those variations will then be what go live into the game. So I hope that makes sense. But yeah, that's what we're hoping for and looking to do. So the player experience, of course, as the game will have a single screen, of course. You're going to have the typical power-ups, dungeons and items to collect. And very specific, you're going to be given, abilities. And there's going to be an interesting twist to this whole thing that I want to do as well. So we'll just, we can gloss over that and move to the next thing. Platform, of course, what I'm aiming for here is everything that we can. Obviously, like, if I were to put it at, like, where we're targeting first, that's Windows PC, Linux, whatever, but PC. So Windows and Linux, and primary focus as PC. With PlayStation, I guess 5, since it's the most powerful console currently, being the next target, then Xbox, then Steam Deck, and possibly Nintendo, depending on how far we can scale this game. But the first and foremost focus is to make this look its best. Do techniques, code techniques, do different things and whatnot to establish a world that is breathtaking, is going to be massive and beautiful to everyone, but to try to build in things that we can scale that down, LOD things, basically quality control, ways to lower the quality. I've coded before for a previous company I worked for, an adaptive quality manager. We can probably look into doing something like that for this, where basically we're scaling down graphics depending on the performance. So if something seems to be causing the game to lag behind, and we're losing frames or taking too long on a frame time, we start throttling back features, essentially, until the game is running smooth again. But yeah, that's going to be the main focus. And so development software, this is where things can change. Currently, more than likely, this thing is going to be using Unity 6. It's what I know best. But if things, and we're going to be testing different engines throughout this process. If things feel like they actually are better to use Unreal Engine or to use Godot, those are the other two that I'm looking at for this process, then we will. But about that, Unity 6 installs just fine, no problems, whatever, right? Godot installs just fine, whatever. Unreal Engine, I am getting the most annoying, stupid error that I have no clue as to what to do about it. And somebody can help me with this offline and then maybe know something about what's going on here and why. But I went to install it, here's the Epic's game launcher, right? They make you install this to even get to Unreal Engine. It's like, thanks Epic. And you have to purchase Unreal, which, okay, I tried that. And so here's what's happening basically. Is like, I have Unreal Engine. I have not installed here for some reason, and I can click this and click that. But it's doing nothing. So what's normally supposed to be installed here is not there. I can't, okay, if I come over here to library, I can finally see something. And then there's install here, right? Okay, there is a remove option. So, okay, let's remove it. Okay, install engine. Oh, okay, that did what? Oh, wait, are we getting somewhere here? Chat, is this working? What's going on here? Did it finally decide to work? Yeah, this can go ahead and see. Okay, well, I don't know what just happened, but apparently doing whatever I just did there made it work. But I was getting some weird errors before. Whatever. Let's just go ahead. I'm gonna pause this so it's not interrupting the stream. We can look at this later. I don't know, man. Unreal Engine is weird. It's also C++, which I think that's going to end up being a problem in some ways. One of the things about Unity 6 is that I can use C++ when I need to. I can write the tools and DLLs for things if I have to, but I don't want to have to, because I want this to be executable on any platform. So by doing so, I need to avoid platform-dependent code. I need to avoid platform-dependent features. We need to aim for the lower end. In this particular case, what we're going to be starting with for targeting high and low end is, of course, the Windows PC and Linux for Steam Deck. So the hopes here is to have something for PC that looks astonishing, and something that same something when put on the Steam Deck can be throttled back to exist and function within the realm and quality of the Steam Deck. And it's easier to do that with Unity. But also, C# 9 is now in Unity 6, which comes with tons of bug fixes for the C# engine. Things that were buggy as hell, and pardon my language, under Unity 5. One of them being the HTTP request specifically. If there was issues with it finding its contacts. So if you made, and I hope it's fixed. I haven't tested this yet, but I know in Unity, in .NET 4.5, the mono engine they were using, if you executed an HTTP request from a thread, it could not return to the context. It would lose the context, and it's basically like, I'm gonna call this thread, I'm gonna run this function, and it's supposed to return and continue, but this function never finds its way home. And then what ends up happening is it locks up. It becomes a thread, a zombie thread, and it ends up sitting there just chewing up. It becomes a memory leak even, and it's terrible. And that was because of the buggy async behavior that .NET 4.5 Mono had, which I'm hoping has been addressed and fixed in C# and later versions, and I assume it has. And now that we're using C# 9, it's going to be way more modern. It's already notably faster. When we upgraded ICOM to Unity 6, the first thing I noticed was how much faster everything was running. And you can see how fast we restart funkin' here. It's yeah. So, with that said, of course I'll be doing everything in VS Code. I do not like Visual Studio proper. It's too heavy-handed. Yeah. I've never liked it, and I'm not a big fan of using Writer because I don't think what VS Code does needs to be paid for. I mean, I get the understanding of contributing to open source software, but I don't know. There's features of Writer that is in the paid version of it that just I never use. So it makes no sense to buy it also for that same degree. We'll be using Blender, obviously, for 3D model development. One thing that's also missing in here, actually, why aren't these? Let's clean this up while we're looking at this. We will be using, Blender for 3D development, of course, or 3D model development. We will be using Photoshop, CS4, for textures. Now, there's basically a thing to be said, though, about in this process, and we'll get to it in a second here. But, yeah, Photoshop CS4 is what I've owned and have been using for years, so it's kind of like there's not been a good reason for me to upgrade past it because the newer features of Photoshop don't matter, and I'm not going to pay for cloud because that's I really don't think this is the kind of software that should be in a cloud service. That's just silly to me. But I might look into things like Substance Painter, and there's a Substance Painter alternative that's supposed to be really nice. That's been released too. So we'll be looking into that. So Substance Painter alternative for creating some of the art and assets. So we'll also be doing using FL Studio 12 for music and sound effects. I own a copy of that, and it's an endless license. Blah blah blah. I have my my tools and stuff in that too, as a former DJ, whatever. I have things that I can use for creating music. That it's just been a matured thing over my career essentially. So why not use them? Yeah, we don't really need to go over genre. Let's go over the concepts, though. And let's go over it really briefly because I don't want to spend all night on this, like I said. Character creation. I do want a character creator, and that's probably what we'll be starting with programming-wise, other than after we get done the testing phase of things. But the character, I really like Throne of Liberty's character creation, and when I saw that, I was like, man, that's really nice. And I've been thinking about how to do a character creation in the past 3 or 4 jobs that I worked for, and wanting to create something like that. And so I have a lot of concepts and things sitting around in my head, but were once written out for these different companies but never implemented, for how to do such a character creation. And, I know how to do it, essentially. So it's one of those, why not? Because mainly, this is supposed to be you. This is you in the game. We'll do the Throne of Liberty thing where there's some presets that you can pick from. I do want that. I want just basically like a subset of things that are like, here's this character look to let you choose from as a base to go from. And then from there, have you fine-tune things like your eyes, your eye size, your nose position, your mouth position and size, stuff like that. Typical character creation stuff. And obviously a heavier focus on colors and letting you color and stylize with, those things. So, whatever we can to let you be you, because this story is yours. This is supposed to be immersive in a way, and I want to bring back that feeling. That's something that actually comes from Nintendo and their design mentality behind some of their games, of that that personalization. We want this to feel personalized to you. We want you to feel immersed into the game. That is why this is actually important. Overworld. Of course, the overworld is going to be very much like a Zelda-inspired kind of thing. There's going to be mass region with different areas and whatnot that I want to focus on. So you'll have your forest, you'll have your desert, you'll have things like that, and of course dungeons to match. This is going to be important to the story in ways too. And some of the game mechanics. So, yeah. And of course, the overworld itself, not only will it be massive, but we want to focus more on not just the massiveness of it, but giving you a reason to go around it. Not just go from point A to point B and call it done. I want to bring back some of that old feel of Zelda games, where you have to actually explore a region to find secrets, unlock things, but not things that are just there to dupe you and waste your time. One of the things I hated about some of the modern Zelda games is that it felt like it wasted your time. Like you didn't get a permanent reward for your time spent for solving a puzzle or solving a thing. I want to make sure that users are given a reward that's concrete for taking that time to explore the world. Obvious case is scattering and hiding. In this case, health containers. We'll just refer to them as health containers for now, or health items. Yeah, health items. We'll scattering the health items throughout the world, and as well as other things. So in some ways, this actually is more Metroid inspired, because I want the overworld to be something like as Metroid, where you're going down and hunting different areas with different puzzles to solve those puzzles and obtain those rewards to further your progress in the game, to help you in the game. And then it gives you a satisfying completion bonus too. When you have something like Metroid and Zelda with items that you collect, when it's not overkill like Donkey Kong, I feel it does give you satisfaction to find those items as a reward. The battle system, like I said, it's mainly will be inspired from The Legend of Zelda. I want the typical, here's abilities. What I can already tell you about what I'm thinking for this is you have your ability. There's going to be two interesting things here. You'll have 2 slot abilities, just like as before. I want to bring back kind of that, let's just say, Wind Waker feel of item system, where you could swap out your inventory, your equipment, for those 2 slots. Yeah, Donkey Kong 64 was pretty rough for people. But yeah, I want to bring back that slot, like the slotted ability where you have 2 different weapons, and normally the default is sword and shield, of course. And we'll have that same kind of thing where it's sword and shield, but there'll be a third thing in this game that I want to establish, which we might as well just call elements. That third slot is passive. It's not an item you use. There will be a toggle for which element you're on, but it will be the indicator of your element that you're using. And what I want to do, and I don't want to say spoilers because, but I mean, we're in this together, and that's the whole point. What I want as a focus in how you earn those elements is the first 4 dungeons. The first 4 dungeons are actually you going through them and challenging the dungeons, and your reward for finishing those first 4 dungeons is to achieve those 4 different elements. You require those 4 different elements. And then progressing past that, those elements become the basis to your items. So now we get into some interesting dynamics that we can play with that are element based throughout the rest of the game. But this is where it gets even a little interesting. Once we get past the element system, which is fine, we then move into a Mega Man style battle system in which basically you can choose whatever dungeon to start with. Some of them you might not be able to get in, and there might be 1 or 2 that get blocked from the player until they achieve certain abilities to be able to access those dungeons. So that might limit it down to 6 dungeons that you can initially pick from, and of course they're going to be scaling in difficulty for the story. But just like in the sense of a Mega Man boss, what I'm thinking for this is you acquire ability throughout the dungeon when going through it. Challenge the boss at the end. In that dungeon, you acquire your the ability that could be the weakness. Well, that will be, just will be. I will tell you, it will be the weakness of another one of the bosses, not the bosses of that dungeon, but of a different dungeon. So each dungeon will have a weakness to another dungeon's boss. However, just like Mega Man, you can still, if you're willing to accept the challenge of it, try to tackle and take on that boss without the matching ability. So it'll be up to the player base to then decide what would be the first dungeon to tackle. And I won't even know. That's what I will hope for, is to just create these dungeons. Create them to be mostly the same difficulty to get through. But to the surprise of it, it becomes like the community to decide which one of these dungeons actually ends up being the easiest to tackle first. And then, of course, once you know the element, then it's easier to tackle the other dungeons. But, of course, that's when the puzzles come in throughout the dungeons to give you a challenge through that, even though you're just, once you have that element, you're just, or once you have that ability, you're just taking out bosses left and right, which is whatever. But the real challenge is going to be in the dungeons themselves and solving the puzzles within them. So, yeah, that covers overworld and battle system. But it also covers dungeon layout. We talked about that one already. It covers bosses and what's going on there, and then multiplayer gameplay. So this is where things will get interesting. As I said, the multiplayer will be optional. The first level will be you'll still have to do the same things in the first difficulty level as playing it in story. So this way, if you choose to play multiplayer, you still have to do story-based things. This is just to avoid circumventing it, and also to make sure that you have all of your stuff together before that, before going into higher difficulties. It's just that if you choose to play multiplayer, then higher level difficulties should remove story things, and then insert puzzles that are more complicated and multiplayer centric. So the idea of the difficulty scaling does come from PSO. Capping it to 4 players is also the mentality of it coming from PSO. I want you to be able to party up with 4 other players and then tackle a dungeon, just as that game would. And of course, you wouldn't really be able to move on to the next difficulty until you've played enough. Obviously, the next difficulty should be challenging enough that you can't just dive right into it. You will die. But the base difficulty should be simple enough that it just feels just as simple as going through story mode. It should still have those story-based elements. What I do hope, though, is that if you do choose to play the multiplayer, that there will be multiplayer-driven puzzles in addition to the normal single-player puzzles. And from there, how do you party up? What are we thinking there for partying up? Of course, you'll be able to move around the world without seeing anyone, without interacting anyone. And this should be mentioned in here, which is not. This is what will make the game unique, is that you will not interact with somebody until you actually choose to go online. The same world, without logging out, without disconnecting, without loading anything, well, except the fact that you've gone online and other players. You'll enable online play, and then other players will be now visible now that you're connected to the game. So let's write that out. And I'll just leave a brief note so I can type the rest of this in later so we don't have to wait on me typing all this out. And I'll just do that with my typical LFM, which says come back here later and fill in the blank here. So yeah, multiplayer will be established from the overworld. What this means is you'll just be thrown, like when you start the game, when you load your save file, you're going to be sitting in a single player instance. It's not going to be multiplayer yet. You go into multiplayer by choosing starting up or opening the menu, choosing to connect online, and then choosing a channel to join. It'll throw you into a channel, and that's just how we're going to have to split players. We may have to also do regions and servers. But for starters, we're going to start, until this is something we can scale out, we're going to start just by setting it up to channels. And the point of the channels then is that only so many players can exist in a channel. So, you go into a channel, you see what players are there. But it should be large enough that you can move around to different channels and in different places where you can meet up with your friends. Should you choose to play with your friends, of course, because everyone loves to do that. Of course, then when you go into that multiplayer mode, all those multiplayer features will become, it will also enable, which should also been mentioned in here where I don't have it. We do want, nope, still the wrong place. In here, we want the multiplayer menu with, friend management, or friend list, and channel selection. We'll say server, region, server channel selection. So I want it to feel somewhat seamless. I want you to be able to play the game without having to be online, but should you choose to go online, it should be right there in the menu for you to turn it on. And you maybe even have an auto option to do so. So this is... Where did it... Where multiple... Okay. So yeah, there should be an option to connect automatically. And yeah, that's how that experience, what I want that experience to be like. I want you to be able to just start the game up, play a game, enjoy the game as it is. And should you choose to play it with your friends, you should be able to just turn on multiplayer, connect to a server, connect to a channel, connect up with new people that you don't even know, should you want to. So have access to a guild, so you can establish a team or a guild of people to play with. I don't know yet about guild features such as guild halls and housing. Maybe that's something we can look into. This is something that is not in this yet, and that I haven't written down. But I can say that it's not really something that I want to primarily focus on because, again, I want this to be a single-player game that just happens to have online or multiplayer capabilities. But good multiplayer capabilities, not just something that feels, thoughtless as well. And that's why that formula of mixing basically a Zelda game with PSO works, because you can choose to play a Zelda game or you can choose to play PSO, and that's what I want to establish here for this. So yeah, there's going to be a central hub area where everyone spawns in normally. There's going to be ways of fast traveling, There's it's going to be a fairly large map, so it's going to be kind of difficult to actually like find other players if they're all scattered throughout the world. But I want to make sure that there is a focused, centralized hub area where it's very inviting and welcoming for players to come back to make sure because when there's a shop area and it's like the only shop area, players are going to come from everywhere to get to that shop area, that kind of thing. So we need to have a focus on something like that. So assistant, that's something that I kind of brought up when we were initially talking about ICOM stuff, and like I said, I wanted to get done with ICOM. But I'm not entirely done with ICOM, am I? Because the assistant in this is where things will get interesting. Just like with Genshin Impact, there's the Paimon, or with PSO we have that mag that follows you around and it shoots. With Nier Automata, there was your robot friend. I forget what those are called, but that thing would help you and assist you and shoot and whatnot. It had its own abilities. In this particular case, it's probably going to be more focused on it being able to still assist you in that way and have its own abilities and whatnot. But I wanted to feel like an AI assistant. I don't want it to just feel like this thing that's just kind of stalking you all the time, but something that you can actually interact with in some way. Sure, it might have some story elements to it where it speaks for story purposes, just like as Paimon or Navi. But I want it to be something that's there for you to help you in the game. So if I ask it lore about the game, it should be able to tell me. If I ask it, how to do things in the game, instructions, it should be able to tell me. And unlike current AI, and the way we do things with AI, and the way Jokin works even, I don't want it. I'm going to experiment with not using an LLM for text generation. So the process flow and how this will work is, of course, it will use something like WhisperX, assuming we can get WhisperX to run standalone in some way, and within Unity, if it's possible. I hope to not have to tie it down to, a third-party service. Maybe Vosk still exists, and I don't remember if Vosk was multi-platform, but if Vosk is multi-platform, we can use Vosk instead of Whisper. Perhaps it's improved, maybe, I don't know. But we need some way, of course, of getting audio to text, or even just letting you type, which is simple enough too. But the audio to text would be nice though in itself. Not required, of course, but would be nice if it's possible. The second phase to that, of course, is once we have the text, how do we, get to what to say with it? Instead of using a full-fledged LLM, I want to use the technology that we were using for the vector database in AICOM, which is called sentence transformers. So it's still an AI model, but what it's doing instead is more like a Google search. It's going to match up the score of what you said against possible things to say, possible things to question or to ask to the AI, your little AI friend. And then match that up with a fixed response. So then the AI is then just saying a fixed response, which keeps it from, which is almost what these AIs seem like they're doing anyways, because they don't have enough creativity to really deviate from a generic response. But with enough fixed responses, though, that it does feel like it's natural in a way. But this is to avoid hallucinated responses. Because the problem is if the AI doesn't have in its training, let's say, we're not using rupees, but let's say this was a Zelda game. and you asked an LLM what a rupee is. Heck, let's ask Pumpkin. Wait, shoot, she's gonna actually know. Well, maybe she won't. Hey, Pumpkin, what are rupees? Pumpkin, what are rupees? Maybe she's not listening. Pumpkin, what are rupees?
Oh my whiskers. Rupees are the currency in the Legend of Zelda series. You can use them to buy all sorts of goods and goodies in Hyrule.
Yeah, of course, she knows what it is because, of course, it's in her training data. But now let's create a currency now in this. Let's call it. What fits the theme of my my universe, which we'll get into in a little while. Credits, sure, but that doesn't. Let's give it a name that's different. The currency should be named credits. That's in line with the theme, and whatnot for you know, the world and whatnot. The universe of my past game plans. Hey Pumpkin, what is this currency? It's called Smedits. So there you go, I made up some
Smedits,
currency.
eh? Well, I suppose it's a unique name for a currency. But I have to ask, Scald, did you come up with that name after eating too much candy corn?
No, Pumpkin, that's the name of the credits in this. Why do you think, what are they for? Pumpkin, what are these Smedits for? Pumpkin, you're embarrassing me here. Answer me. What are Smedits for?
Oops, sorry about that. I was too busy thinking about pumpkin spice lattes. Smedits, right. I think they're for buying virtual pumpkins and cat ears in your game, Scald.
And there you have it. She just completely hallucinated what these things are used for. And that's the problem with LLMs. Like, there's no context in which she knows these things, and she just completely decided that, oh, they're for buying pumpkins. Never was she told that. Never, yeah. I mean, there is her personality traits that are coming out in there because that's like, but that's misleading information for when the purpose of the AI is to help you. So that's hallucinating, and that's what we need to avoid with this AI assistant, essentially. We can take what we learned from AICom and put it into this assistant, but we need to have something that is useful and clear and not giving accidental misinformation. So yeah, let's go into the art style, what I'm aiming for. Of course, anime-like. Not necessarily anime, though. I do want to focus on an art style that is more rotoscope, though. I want the overall look to have the feel of anime to it. I want it to have the techniques of anime and anime design for art for cell shading and 3D like anime games, essentially, like characters like mine and Pumpkins, essentially. But I want the art base to have more of a rotoscope look to it, so that they're more relatable and cultural. In this case, like, let's be real here. So black folk can be black folk, white folk can be white folk, Asian folk can be Asian folk, those kinds of things. So there's more variety, and it can be more personal to who's playing the game. But also because, I mean, that is kind of like, we want to be able to show the mixed pot of what this universe is like, though, too. Because now let's get into theme, story, and background. So this is where things get really crazy, because there's a lot of things in which I decided for this game, for other games that I wanted to make that I never actually was able to make or able to complete. I may have started dabbling in it, started some planning out, but never really got anywhere with it. And we can go on another topic rant or whatever of why did I fail in the past kind of thing, why these projects failed, why don't we see them, why is it the only project that I ever did complete is Izanami's Dream Battle within this universe. So let's go back to origins. About when I was 13 years old, I came up with a concept called Time of Death. Time of Death was a JRPG-like game that I wanted to make as a kid. That was basically, you're a player and your older brother one day just goes insane. And so you're now going around all over the place trying to find your brother and to confront him and find out why he was, he burnt down your hometown. That was the story of this, as that as far as we got as when I was a kid. This is 13-year-old me not really knowing how the hell these things work and how to really write a good story. But that was the first entry into this universe of games that I wanted to create. And one of those concepts of that game was a crystal, essentially, which is the crystal that's in Izanami's Dream Battle, that drove his brother mad. And that's what you were supposed to find out eventually in that story, is that this crystal is responsible for driving you as the character's brother insane. And this might be getting a little personal to my own personal background, but whatever. I never even realized these things actually now until I said them out. But yeah, this crystal drove your older brother mad, and that's why he did what he did. And so you ended up having to confront him, defeat him, and separate him from this crystal. Now, this is the foundation to the Studio Jaw universe, we'll just call it. This crystal is also in Izanami's Dream Battle. Izanami's Dream Battle, it was very thoroughly explained that this crystal came along with I-1, Florin, and Larissa, the three girls that are all sisters, the three sisters. They came into being born, being into Tokyo with this crystal. They were found with this crystal. Their adoptive parents, because that's actually what's going on with them, is they were adopted. That is why they're sitting here in Sakura, Chiba, Japan. That's how they got there. And they were actually warped in from the past. Essentially, there's time shenanigans going on here. War tore out, and this was related to that original game, Time of Death, that they were brought forward into the future. And if you notice, and it's not hidden, that their names are Latin. That's supposed to give a hint to the time period in which Time of Death was supposed to have been in. Latin was supposed to be a big thing, whatever. So there's connections to this and what's supposed to be Earth, essentially. But then Izanami's Dream Battle actually goes in its own direction of games that I wanted to make and out that way. The second to would have followed Izanami's Dream Battle would have been Sakura Soul Crisis. Sakura Soul Crisis was a game that mid-20s me wanted to make that would have been a Star Fox clone, but more of like a Star Fox meets Star Fox that meets Freelancer. You remember playing the old Freelancer game, and that had a very Star Fox-like story to it, where you go through each world and fight a boss at the end. But I never really gave that much planning and thought and whatever. And then following that game would have been Crystal Panic. And that was another game that I had started and never finished as well. But tangential and sideways to all that would have been the left side, we'll call it, of the story, the split from Izanami's Dream Battle, which would have been followed with a game that I wanted to create that was called Before the Final Frontier. And Before the Final Frontier, it's timeline-wise, it's supposed to happen after Izanami's Dream Battle. But what happened there, that game was supposed to be an MMORPG, but in 16-bit. That was what I wanted to do with it, and that had personal things get in the way of it from me actually continuing with that game and developing it and making it. It would have been a 16-bit MMORPG, but that would have been procedurally generated. Essentially, it kind of had the same concepts as this, but was far more complicated. Unfortunately, because what I wanted was it would procedurally generate where these 8 towers were, and these 8 towers were all space elevators. But what was supposed to have been happening is a blight was breaking out on Earth, and it was causing everyone to die. Some turn into monsters, and this was causing people to kind of create those hierarchical cities, which ironically BlazBlue ended up with a very similar story to this, and I'm like, this was never public, so of course they didn't copy me, but it's like, man, there goes that idea. Because, BlazBlue ended up doing it. And I'm like, well, fuck. But I had the same concept, though, with this, Before the Final Frontier game. And basically, the society was forced to live up in these space elevators. Around these space elevators, and then they eventually defeated the source of the blight, but they also completed the space elevators to reach out into space and do space exploration, and then we get to the story of the Angel Project. The Angel Project was supposed to follow that, which is a far in the future past. The whole Before the Final Frontier thing. There are huge concepts actually in the Angel Project that I wanted to do. That game was supposed to be a VR, basically a VR PSO, and that never happened because people lost interest. And let's be real here. What happened was mostly myself. I didn't do enough job reaching out to people. People said the game was garbage, but they were judging it before it was, before anything was really done. Like, this is a game in rapid development, in rapid prototype. I was designing a game that was nowhere near a game yet. Part of me, in my amateurishness, I will admit, was allowing things to be low quality, not being mediocre quality. I feel that got in the way of creating of moving it past what it was, and I got into an acceptance, which this is where like the whole stuff from listening to Marble Machine guy Wintergarten, listening to him talk and listening to how his past projects failed. I started to realize that in myself though too, that I was becoming too content with certain things, with the quality of things, and because of that, I didn't focus or even explain to people that we would be improving those things. I had no plan to that, where I had a business plan for that product, because I was actually serious about that and developing a business plan and presenting that in the same way as this game. But I had no concept plan. I didn't have a proper wireframe fleshed out as we are here with this game. And I feel the lack of planning and lack of understanding my own limitations and lack of pursuing better quality was the reason that project failed, why we ended up not seeing an Angel project. Not to mention that, as well as the before the Final Frontier games, they were too ambitious of projects, and that's maybe a problem I have, is doing something that's too ambitious, where I feel this game is just the right amount of ambition, because I feel like this is all at least achievable by myself. It's not building out a massive infrastructure. It's not building out a massive... It's keeping things simple, so that I, as a single person, can actually develop a prototype for it at least. And that's what we'll get into, and how we're going to approach this whole process of this game. But now back to the story of the Angel Project and how that relates to this. Okay, so the Angel Project, that's still Earth-centric. That's still focused on Earth, except what happens in the Angel Project is then is exactly what the Angel Project is. The Angel Project was when somebody was near death, basically on their deathbed, and sometimes even technically dead. If their brain still functioned, they were given an option to have their memory, have their selves converted into a replicant. That was a key concept of that, and the technology behind it. It's kind of... Altered Carbon explored this, and there is some exploration in it in Blade Runner, but they never really completely focused on it, and they had some of the same rules, ironically, and one of the key same rules was that once you've done this, if you said yes to doing this and letting yourself become an android, which of course I was gonna jokingly have something, or if you said no, you just game overed. Because the way the game was supposed to start is you're in class, and then suddenly replicants actually do attack. They attack, they destroy your town, and they kill you in the process. You were luckily rescued in time before completely dead. And then brought out to the Angel Project, and you were given that choice of your appearance, life, and everything else. You had just died. Now you're being given a new replicant body. You get to choose what that replicant body looks like. That's the point of that. Why that game would have had a character creation, and where, like I said, I had some experience in planning this out, but never really did it. Came from that. And that would have been the idea as you planned. You created your character, and then you're brought into, the Angel Project, where you did missions for the project, and part of that was an exploration of finding who did this, who attacked, finding out what the problem of what it was going to be, and establishing things. And the story never really got fleshed out further than that, other than that the conclusion of this to take from it was that the barrier between humans and replicants was a bad idea. That they shouldn't be, humans shouldn't be forced to just live on Earth. It became apparent that humans need to be able to spread alongside with the replicants, and the replicants still should be allowed on Earth. So that would have been the moral takeaway of that. And now come to this game, Project Exploration, and what's going on here story-wise. So this is where things get interesting in that background. This is technically what would be a sequel to the Angel Project. Basically, 200 years in the future, roughly, past this, about 500 humans and androids were sent into deep exploration. The humans were put into deep sleep. The androids obviously ran the show until they landed. The replicants, sorry. There's a key difference between androids and replicants, and these are replicants. So they were sent to populate a planet that looked inhabitable in the galaxy, and they finally arrived. Of course, how long that trip took is not going to be explained, but we can say it was 200 years ago that they landed. Because now we're into a society that is only 200 years old. And then comes, it's a foreign planet. It's a planet that, it's that that was found to have no intelligent life already on it. But upon arrival, and within that 200 years lifespan, studies of the planet has started to reveal, a society that was once there, and that it was another alien race that had lived there. So a lot of this game, and part of why it's called Project Exploration in this regard too, is not only are you exploring a world, but you're also exploring a world that's foreign and alien, and discovering history of a previous race, that once lived there. So that, this had happened, this alien race started, to be discovered. Everyone had thought it had completely gone extinct. But the twist here is now where you come in as the player. You're found one day during this process, and you're awoken, and everyone, we'll just say everyone assumes you're a replicant, but it's not for sure of if you're just a replicant, a normal replicant. And obviously there's something different about you, because you, like the player, the character, you have access to things that these old civilizations, to architecture, to door. Let's just say you have abilities to open doors other people can't, to old ancient ruins, and what would be the dungeons, essentially, that were native to the planet. And so you're this character that is, you're perceived as a replicant, but no one really knows for sure, and you have no memory of who you are and what you are before you awoken. So yeah, that brings us into this world, and your objective in this world is to figure out what killed this past alien race of people. What happened, and why did they fall out of existence, and find out why you're different. essentially, than the other replicants. But you will be a replicant. And in this world, you'll see a world of replicants and humans, where all the replicants are, basically the same age. They're all adults, of course, because that's the point of a replicant, is you get to choose your perceived identity after you've passed, and that's the idea. And of course, that's what you get to do also, because that's inherent to this game, is you get to create your character and how you're perceived. But you'll see different characters and whatnot, and we'll avoid taboo character creations, we'll say. Like, we're not going to have somebody, of course, like running around on a lolly. That's no. That's a no bueno. But there will be children, though, because there's going to be humans. So we have a mixed world of replicants and humans, and establishing the society. Both have interesting concepts of societies, which I will sneak in where I can in the story. I will say for sure that one thing you'll notice is that in this society, as well as what would have been the society of the Angel Project, is that it's a post-scarcity society. But it's also a society that is focused on needs versus luxuries. So, you'll have, food. Like, if you go to the main hub town in this world, you'll be able to eat to restore your health. You'll be able to sleep anywhere to whatever, because you technically are already doing your part of society as being one of the explorers, and that kind of deal. And there'll be explanations of that stuff within, the game, to kind of point out that how that economy works in that game. But you'll notice that luxuries are something that you'll still have to pay for. And in some ways, you'll still have to pay for things that go beyond the scope of needs. Like, you'll still have to pay for some services and some luxury items, we'll say, that are, not necessary to society kind of things. So that's what we'll focus on with how the game's economy will work. Now, as the game's, we'll say, ethical standings will be similar also to with the Angel Project. In the Angel Project, ethics were driven by a made-up secular belief that was called Universiology, that ethics were logical. And so one of the things that, that it was supposed to be in the Angel Project that would have trickled into this was the first thing that you would have been doing in that game, is sitting in a college ethics course, which was a mandatory college ethics course about secular ethics, and in this particular case about that whole secular understanding of what's called Universiology. It's totally made up bullshit. Again, pardon my language. But it was a story element to drive the story and the belief system, and explain why that people would do these things, and explain the society behind all of it. And there's also be those driving factors of how these the society and the world thought. So it's part of the world building. And we'll continue to see that, but very subtly. Like, I don't want to force it upon the players and make it serious, because this is a fantasy game. I want you to be able to play this and escape. I don't want you to feel like all right, we should do this in our real society kind of stuff, even though I've said that kind of thing in the past, and people who know me know that I've said that kind of thing in the past. But I don't want to make it a central focus of this game at all because I don't want to bring politics into this any more than they need to. But yeah, and of course, music, sound effects are pretty obvious with this and what's going on. They should reflect the world. They should reflect the world, the theme, and the environment in which you're in. And also, like, you know, if it's a town, it should be more upbeat. If it's in the world map, then it should transition to a more like serious, like exploration-y sounding, you know, theme, and you know, that kind of thing. And then UI is, well, stuff that's pretty obvious, so we'll just skip over that. And then the statement here is the project outline. This project outline is how we're going to be approaching this process. And so that leads to the next important part of tonight, is getting into this project outline and how we're going to approach completing this game. And we can refine this at any time. And that's the whole point, is that this is something that can be altered, changed. We can always add or take out away from this. Unironically, we don't want to put a timeline on this project. The sooner the better, but I don't want to rush it. This game, I want us as a community in whole to come together and decide what would be best for it and be not afraid to change things. But I can only do this, of course, with financial support. And so part of the planning phase of this is planning how to set up this stream that you all want to be a part of, that you all want to participate in and help contribute to financially, to keep me doing this, to keep going. And I only ask, in this particular case, enough to pay the bills, and hoping that one day we can get this project to that point, so I can stay focused on this project and developing out this game to be its best. So that brings us to the 4 main phases that this game will be doing for this game. The one we'll be entering is planning. This is part, or that we are currently even in, that, you know, is the planning phase. Within the planning phase, of course, we're going to go over this wireframe and refine this wireframe as much as we can. But we'll never be done with this phase. That's the whole mentality, is we can't let ourselves get stuck. Within that planning, we need to figure out, you know, this wireframe. What do we want this game to be? What do we want it to look like? Do we want to change things about the story? Do we want to change things about the concepts? Do we want to even detach it from the Studio Jaw universe, the stuff that I was talking about? Or do we really want to go for that, and how do we go for that and keep it, the story more planned out and fleshed out? The story is also something that's going to be written out as we discover, you know, how to handle it within the certain different dungeons as we progress throughout the game. So, you know, we'll be continuously redefining the state document and redefining the story, which is the initial story outline. We need to have that initial story thing. We need to actually get it, start doing NPC character development, which is who is in this universe, who are they, how are they important to this, well, not universe, in this game, and specifically this world of the universe. You know, who are the key players, what do they do, and who are going to be the guides of this hero story. Obviously, we have a hero story. Obviously, we have our call to action. It's given to us right out the gate. We need to look into further of what that hero's story is and why we're doing this. Okay. And then we also need to look in tools, research, and development. Things like, can we do RTX in the engine that we're working with? Do we want to do RTX? Is there other tricks that we can do that would look just as good as RTX that we don't necessarily need to do, use RTX to reach the same effect and goal? Questions like that we need to answer, and we need to take a look at like modern techniques and features of game engines and design, and then we need to look at game engine capabilities and limitations and stuff like that. And that's what I want to go over with you guys next. That's what I have planned as our workshop piece tonight. Is and I guess it would be for that last hour, is looking at different engines, and first starting with that initial camera shake issue, and I'll explain what's going on there right as soon as we wrap this up. So, planning. The next phase would be prototype development. Once we have this planned out enough, which planning will never end, and we may even start in the direction of prototype development, which is developing shaders, developing effects, developing the code for what the game engine is, the game itself, developing the whole infrastructure and process flow, developing that user experience, and basically building out that prototype. And one thing that needs to be understood right away, and I will say, with this prototype, is that we will be working on basically creating a game with fill-in art. I will just say that right now, unless we feel that the art is good enough to consider it final, it is filler. And nothing is final until everyone involved in this project feels that it is final. So that goes on to phase 3, seeking funding. Seeking funding means talking to investors, talking to venture capitalists, finding people to help us. Then after we have a working prototype, fund this project and take that prototype with filler art, because everything is, like I said, going to be basically filler until we can replace it with final assets, which is step 4. Once we and part of that prototype development is creating those the filler art, so that we know what we need. The filler art then becomes a slotted solution. We then know that, okay, we have this asset and we need a better asset for it, so we're going to hire someone for this X amount of dollars to build this asset. And that is why this project is going to be considered not time focused, a deadline focused, but financially focused, or cost driven. Because we want to build out how much we want to build that prototype out, so we understand how much it's going to cost to refine this game to a final version that is marketable. So we need to build it out, put in that filler art and the stub art, and we need to determine with a venture capitalist and with any investors what of that filler art needs to be slotted out for finalized art. And that may even mean code too. We may need to revisit code of this game, to make it polished, to make it more, what we want to achieve, especially if there ends up being art changes. That's where, planning the funding is going to get a little more difficult. But our asking amount for when we go to seek funding is going to be based on slotting the art out. We're going to look at, once we get ready for that seeking funding phase, we'll look at all the assets that we have and all the places that we need assets and slot out for, and then weigh out the costs of replacing those assets with professional assets and how much that's going to cost. And then, of course, that is phase 4. Use the funding to finalize the game. That's, paying for hiring artists and third-party studios, even if we have to do art, cinematics. And I don't want to do, honestly, I don't want to do, I kind of want to do the same thing as Final Fantasy 16 when it comes to cinematics. I want it to all be in-game assets because I want to create an in-game world that looks beautiful enough that we don't have to rely on doing pre-rendered graphics for our cinematic sequences if we do them. But also, like, even if we don't reach that funding, I want this game to be quality enough to at least say, like, here's a beautiful prototype that I created. That sure, if people can at least get access to it and play it, and then see my work. So that's where things can become, or where things are going to get interesting, and where it becomes kind of the fork in the road, is once we get to that point, can we seek the funding that we need to get this game funded and finished and polished, or is it going to go into a different category of, okay, here's a prototype, it's as best as I could do on my own, but the prototype should be playable, is where we're getting at. And that's it. So, people just had interesting comments, but nothing really to, no questions. But if you have questions itching your head, feel free to ask. Also, like, the reason for some of the commands for, Pumpkin, like sound, is because when I get into a project,
all right,
I'm gonna be I get really focused on what I'm working on, so that sound command will be there for you guys to get my attention if you're trying to ask a question, or you can ask Pumpkin. And moderators, you guys have the ability, and subscribers have the ability to use the say command to get my attention. So yeah, keep that in mind. So now let's look at what I was getting at as our engine exploration and what's happening with that whole trying to create a massive open world, and what happens with what's called floating point precision error. Unity seems to still have this problem, and I'm a little worried about it because we're building a massive overworld, and this is what the avatar looks like. This is what we should be seeing. This is what we should look like. It should look like. But when you get 1,000 units away, you can start to see some degrade. So that's 1 kilometer. And for an open world like, say, The Legend of Zelda: Link's Breath of the Wild, it is a 10-kilometer world. And when you reach 5 kilometers, things start to get pretty wonky. Things will start to get rather shaky from the camera. And yes, I did buy this avatar so I can have a higher quality avatar to test shading stuff with and environmental stuff. There's shader tricks that I want to do to bring out some of the details of this, and as kind of an understanding, a baseline of the aesthetic that I kind of want, for this game, before we go into our character, or like I said, the rotoscoping style and look. But, okay, let's get this character a little closer into the camera. Like if I bring it to 0.5, let's bring it up to eyesight, maybe 1.3, 1.25. Okay. So here we are a little closer in and whatever. So yeah, 5,000 units compared to 0. Like you can instantly see the difference in look. I guess it's not so apparent over the stream, But you see this in a game, and you're just going to start to wonder. It's going to start to have a negative impact in environment details. Floating point precision error is nasty. But now, let's say at 1,000, if we go to 10,000, now you see a really big difference between 1,000 and 10,000. And from 10,000 to 0, you see the line starting to wiggle in unfortunate ways. And now if we go 100,000, it just outright breaks down. And this is what we want to not have. Okay. I need my caffeine. So I want to look to see if this is still a problem with other engines. Obviously, I can't do that with Unreal because that's still downloading. I wonder if I can control this download speed. Let me know if the stream is suffering quality. I'm going to go ahead and let it go. It's currently downloading and doing its thing. But now let's take a look at Godot. And Godot, I'd already set up a scene, this scene and whatever to begin tests with. Let's go ahead and drag out. Oh, we have to create a base node, which is the 3D node. Let's go ahead and drag out our art asset. Hello. Okay, sure, that works. And in its transform, of course, let's make sure it's the same deal, 0, 0, 0. Right? Obviously, we have some problems here because it's not. The materials aren't mapped up correctly. With Godot, how do we do that? Let's go ahead and at least get some some of the base textures mapped up on this. Which, how in the heck does one do that? Open maybe in the import settings. There should be a Node 3D. Okay. I wonder if we can just drag and drop, say, face onto the face. What will happen? Nothing. Node. Nope. History. Nope. Let's get at least a camera node in here first, I guess. We don't really need the textures. We just need to verify camera stuff. And I forget how to do that with node or with with Godot. I don't use it very often, so I don't have a lot of it memorized. Add child node. Okay, so we want a camera. Here we go. We got our camera. We actually want that child to do that, and we want this avatar to be the child of the camera. Our camera, of course, yep, same deal as there, but we need to move the avatar to be in the camera's view. Okay, so do we have a view from the camera? Is there a camera preview of some kind? Oh, that's a scene. Camera preview. There it is. Okay. So there's our camera preview. So let's move that camera. Same deal. Move its transform to -1000. What do we get? We're already starting to see it, actually. So the problem is consistency amongst engines, it seems. So let's go to 100,000. Wait, no, that's 10,000. Okay, so 10,000 away, we get a little bit more breakdown, but not nearly as bad yet. 100,000. Do we have a total breakdown problem? And it looks like maybe not. it does break down. Floating point precision does become worse as it gets away from orientation or origin, but it doesn't go into a complete breakdown. So there's still some floating point precision error, just not nearly as bad as Unity, but we want to avoid it entirely. With a multiplayer game, and the thing that VR chat struggles with, you'll notice that you have to have players with a fixed position. So they have the problem of because you can't do chunks in something like VR chat or anything that's a massive or that's multiplayer or as an MMORPG. And I'll get into in a second how there's a workaround to it, but it's ugly. But normally, if you have an engine that you wrote yourself, you bake that into the engine, and your tools, your components that you build on top of that, just are transparent to this. They don't need to know that this is happening under the hood. But we'll just say that Futurama once said it the best, where you don't move the ship, you move the universe. And that's the concept behind it. So yeah, Unity, Godot, yeah. Let's check on Unreal Engine. Where are we at with that? It looks like 49%. Yeah. Let's see if there's anything that can be done with the camera that could possibly maybe fix this in Unity. Like, is there something that can change this behavior? There is the pipeline settings and scripted pipeline, but I don't think Unity allows us to change the camera space, mostly because of their shading system. Because if the camera were to not move, which is essentially what it should do, shaders would always get a camera value of 000, but I feel in some way that camera, having a 000 origin camera in shaders actually makes coding shaders easier. It just makes some interesting things happen to the shader, though, as it gets further away from the origin. So, oh, you can do camera stacks now. That's kind of nice. Not build profiles, but let's see in edit project settings. Probably want to look in graphics here. First thing, the biggest thing in here is the new engine stuff here in Player, actually, for the graphics API. Let's see, automatic graphics API for Windows. What is the default these days? DirectX 11? Interesting. It doesn't say which, DirectX 11. Okay, what do we got engines wise? We got 11, 12, Vulkan, Core or GLS3. I think the Vulkan's probably going to be most cross-compatible if you want a consistent engine, but has it improved enough that it won't crash on us? Because previous versions of Unity, Vulkan was very unstable. Vulkan's a very great graphics API, but everything has to catch up to it. And it looks like actually it's holding fairly stable. But we still have that problem. So yeah, let's, I don't know, stick with that. And in Linux we can do the same thing. We just remove OpenGL and just keep them both on Vulkan. Let's aim for that, I guess, with Unity in this case. Map encoding HDR cube map. Okay. We do want this, and yeah, that. But yeah, models not .NET Standard 2.1, but the framework backend is 9x. So 2.1 is just a compatibility layer or level, which just means even though it's Standard 2.1 compatible, is still using .NET 9 to run it with. Interesting. Blocking out HTTP downloads. Good. Default on. Okay, yeah, script compilation stuff. Yep, nothing really new in there that helps us. Quality won't really help us here, so let's see the actual graphics here. So yeah, it's using this universal render pipeline asset, which I need to learn more about, honestly. Yeah, we get things like opaque down sampling, yeah. The problem is if we use also a system where everything moves around, the universe moves, they can't be, they can be light matte static, but they can't be occlusion static, which could be bad, because this is supposed to have far better occlusion handling than previous versions. Yeah, this culling settings, camera relative culling. Okay, URP, there's no volume profile. I guess this is all the... Yeah, adaptive pro volumes. Yeah, bloom. I almost want to convert this back to just standard pipeline. Standard render pipeline instead of the URP. Yeah, none of this helps us with any of this. They ever add more into adaptive performance? Probably not. I was hoping in here to find at what bits the coordinate system was in. I wonder if that's something we can change. Unity change how many bits the world coordinates use. Okay, double precision data. Unity engine itself transforms physics letters does not support double precision. Recommendation is world size is a max of 50 kilometers. Blah 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 bullshit. However, Dots, MATLAB, and Burst compiler are support it. Okay. HDRP shaders can work in relative camera position to minimize graphic glitches when dealing with objects from the origin. So it looks like this is built into something built into HDRP, possibly. I really don't want to have to use HDRP, but if we have to. Okay, so MATLAB and burst compiler support, blah blah blah. HDRP work in relative camera position. I don't see anything explaining that anywhere, so I don't think that's quite right. I wonder if it's just shaders in general. In Unity, the transform position node in the Amplify shader editor can transform position values from one speed, blah blah blah, whatever, including relative camera rendering. This node can handle complex transforms, including intermediate transformations and float 4 to float 3 conversions. I suppose then this is where we want to play with shaders. Does this appear to be happening because we are running into... Ooh, wow, no, that is FPE based on coordinates, not... But I wonder if we can write a shader that actually, like it's saying, fixes that problem. So let's start with, let's see if, Unreal is done here. Okay, it's done. Let's see, okay, before we get into trying to write a shader that gets around this problem, let's see if we can actually, if this happens in Unreal Engine as well. Wee! Okay, first person, third person, sure, third person, blank project. Let's put it in our workspace for... Oop. Yes, project exploration. There we go. And then we'll call this one, the project for this, of course, Unreal Engine. Or I'll just, I don't know, leave it Unreal. Path exists. Okay, fine. Where the fuck is it? No, it doesn't. You lied. Try again. Oh, path does not exist. Yeah, because we want it to be in... Oh, another problem, though. I think I have another folder for specifically tests in this case. Planning? No. Oh, nope, never mind. It is just there. Okay, so that, but the name of it will be Unreal S. Sure, I don't care if it's blueprint. Just quick and dirty. Whee! Compiling shaders already. Yeah, that's something that's cursed that I also want to avoid Unreal for, because apparently Unreal has been pushing this paradigm that you need to compile shaders for every fucking platform you put your game on, and it's I find it a bane to games to be doing that. Like your shaders should, I feel, should come pre-compiled. You shouldn't be pushing that onto the consumer to sit there and wait for those things to compile. It's just kind of cursed. Well, I guess while it's waiting on compiling a shader, let's begin a shader here. Nope. Testing assets. It's shaders. Okay, and let's create a very blank and minimalistic interesting. Oh, shader, there it is. Unlit shader, and we'll call this origin test, I guess. And open it up. Let's put it in the proper place. It should be in a Studio Jaw test, origin test, and we just want a basic, for now the basic ass. We'll get rid of fog. There, get it all fog gone. Basic shader. Let's see if it compiles just fine in its materials. There's a good chance that it might not work because it's on Universal Render Pipeline. It looks like, okay, Studio Jaw test, origin test. Hey, look at that. It actually works just fine. But then we see still that we get the that issue with the coordinates. This is where things get interesting that we can play with here is these coordinates here. I want to test. I'm trying to figure out how to I want to test this, because the problem here is what's drawing to the screen now at this point in the shader are massive coordinates that are being passed into it. Well, how do we get relative camera coordinates then? The transform position node in the amplify shader editor can. What is this coming from? Okay, but we wanna. Interesting. Do I need to switch this project over to HDRP, and it's just something HDRP can supply the shader from an external? I think part of the problem here is when we're getting this vertex in here, it's not lerping correctly between this vertex to other positions. Okay, this is the vertex shader, so we should be dealing with, unfortunately, massive numbers, but then it changes it from object to clip pose. This clip pose... All right, we'll come back to that in a second. We have, yeah, Unreal Engine loaded up here. So, man, this one's funny. Uh-oh, disconnecting, reconnecting. What happened? Huh, something weird happened and I got disconnected and reconnected. Hope everything's okay. Anyways, let's go ahead and drop this into characters, as I was mentioning. Okay, import skeletal mesh, import all. Let's go for it. See what it does. Yeah. Holy cow. You'd think they would handle those errors more gracefully. I see Unreal Engine still handles those very, very terribly and janky. Sure. Yeah, do that. Can you be done now? Jeez, thanks. Okay, what happened here? Okay, leave me alone. Can you stop now, please? Okay. Skeleton physics. Okay, here is the avatar. There we go. We got it in there. All right. So same deal. We get this interesting looking avatar. And I keep losing connection and reconnecting. What is causing that? Am I running out of VRAM? Let's shut down things like Unity and Godot for now. Yeah, it's pretty much probably out of VRAM. Wow, where did this one I saved to? I'll just put it there. Oh wow, something's chewing up VRAM still even more than it should be. Okay, details. What do we got? What's using up the VRAM? Oh my fucking god, why? Well, iCore's using a big chunk that it probably shouldn't be. Probably the, yeah, Whisper model. Pumpkin, you big butt. But yeah, no, Unreal Editor is, yeah, using a big chunk in itself. Twice, is that? Or what am I seeing? DWM, oh, that's Windows itself is doing that. Okay, that's going down though. It's falling in memory. But it looks like, yeah, things should stable out now. Okay, so we want to get rid of some things and bits in this editor. These cubes and whatnot. Let's just get rid of those. We do need to find a camera though. We don't need a player start. Yeah, we don't need those either. Let me see, I can't really kill these off. Whatever. Lighting. Okay, whatever. Create, no. Okay, how do I actually add a component now? Okay, new folder. Browse the assets. Oh, I guess I need a, yeah. And then a camera. Camera asset, okay. Mer? Hello, camera. Where are you at? Where do I create a camera? I guess let's go into our characters and that, and then let's add import content. Here we go. I just want a camera. Oh. Wow. Blueprint nonsense, audio, animation. Okay. Uh-huh. Let's see then. Unreal Engine, add camera. What are we missing here? Camera actor to my scene, of course, but how do I... Actor options. Camera actor. There we go. Hey, there it is. I don't know why they call these things actors, though. That is some funky Unreal Engine terminology. Maybe not be an upskirt. Okay, so, oh, maybe turn it also around. There we go. Same deal, we want this camera to be like, you know, right there. And then we want our, this to be a child node. Hey, they kind of actually fixed it up. That's kind of nice. And so now, location's already kind of crazy. Yeah, so location here is 60. What are these units? What if I set this 0? And set this to 0. Oh, I see. That's like the units in here are kind of wonky. Okay, so whatever. Yeah, that's about good. I guess 100 units is 1 meter, so I guess this is in centimeters. So yeah, this is obviously some weird coordinates. Let's get it at origin for the most part. But then now let's send it out to hell and back and see what we get. So oh boy, first impression, 1000 centimeters. So add 2 zeros to make it 1000 meters. We're already starting to see some degrade, it looks like, I think. So let's send it to an equivalent. Okay. And it looks to actually hold steady. Let's keep adding zeros. Can I get a better preview than that? It'd be nice if I had I can enlarge that preview. Boo-doo. We don't want you to see how terrible things render. So this is that essentially, which is 100,000 meters away, and there's very little degrade. So, oh yeah, look at that. Actually, there's next to no degrade there either. Guess what Unreal Engine is doing? Oh, it starts to degrade though. It does eventually start to fall apart. Yeah. The other thing we can do to get around this problem in Unity then... Oh, look at that. Unreal just... I keep adding zeros, but it keeps dynamically changing things. I think they have something that dynamically changes this, the coordinate system. But what we can do to get around this in Unity... We can go ahead and save that test. Is instead of making things dealing with large coordinates, we actually deal with a small world, and we shrink down everything actually to a tenth of the size, giving us a tenth more in fidelity. Because for whatever reason, not ICOM, Unity does not seem to mind smaller numbers. It would help though if their internal coordinate system was 64-bit like the other platforms and not 32-bit. But we can probably get around this, as I mentioned. By instead of big number, ooh wow, we actually just make, even here, we do a scale of 0.01 for everything. What happened here? And then we take this and put it more, well, we take off 2 zeros. But now, what's going on? Hello? Why are you zooming so fast? Yeah, there's problems with doing that. We start getting the zoomies. Okay, but then of course the camera needs to have a near plane of the same deal. Divide everything by that. It still seems to have a weird focus on the editor though, but camera. Oh, no. Okay, where's the camera? Holy cow, that's... There we go. Now we're dealing... We're still dealing with the problem. So this is negative 1000 away, with a clipping plane of 0.01 to 10. And we're still seeing degrade. Maybe instead of scaling the camera, we actually leave the avatar out, revert the scale, and then put the avatar back in, and then focus on the size of the avatar. But we're still seeing, okay, 1,000 units out, it degrade. And GameCube, well, okay, camera though. Yeah, I'm not sure how that one happened. Okay. Because if, camera is 0.01 near plane, according to this, that's a big range there for it to be looking at. That's basically 1 meter away. So we want a centimeter away, which it won't let us. We can't get any closer than 1 meter away with a camera like that. And it's still shaky. Yeah. So that ain't gonna work. We can't just simply scale things. So I guess let's try HDRP. As much as I hate it, it might be the answer. The brains how to do this. Okay, so graphics default render pipeline. Is this a Unity object? It is. We need to create a new. Wait, what? Yeah, why can't this be done with a universal render pipeline? Is that not a thing? Maybe. Oop. Night map modes, fog modes, insisting variances. No. Batch rendered group variances. Yeah, okay. Log shader compilation. Camera relative culling is on. Yeah, sure. Render. Okay. Let's see if URP can actually do it. It can use camera relative rendering and shaders. Well, okay, Gemini, how about this? Oh, wait. Oh, hi. Does this work? That seems to be broken. No, it says to use render. Oh, okay, universal. That's already like, yeah, that should be a built-in package. Let's see, URP fade near camera. Okay. Camera relative rendering. That led me to something completely, oh, there it is. There's a little insert about it. Camera relative rendering would allow the universal render pipeline to render distant game objects with large world space coordinates in a more robust blah 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 whatever. The absolute precision floating point blah blah blah. This means the game okay. The mesh face is okay, whatever. Another way up here in the same place, Z fighting. Okay, to fix this issue, camera relative. Okay, but how do I do it? Great, cool. How do I do it? But it is called camera relative rendering. Unity is what we need to look up. Camera relative rendering is what we need to fix this problem. Yeah, okay, that got me back to where I was. HDRP has this, okay. Using camera, okay. Camera relative rendering is enabled default in shaderconfig.cs file. Okay, packages, runtime, shader library, edit, window, packages, package manager. Except this is in your project window. Oh, or does it mean? Oh, packages. Runtime. Yeah, I don't see a runtime folder. But it says get absolute position windows, position puts position WS. And then, okay. Get camera relative position world space camera. Okay, but how do, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm not seeing that runtime folder that's supposed to be here under packages. Although this does say specifically that it's for HDRP, not UDRP, even though it's supposed to be enabled for UDRP as well. Okay, so universal render pipeline documentation, please. Maybe not. Okay, so packages, I guess. Let's go back to that. Package manager, this thing. We actually do want to find the high definition HDRP, I guess. These are, okay, in yeah. High definition RP. Okay, let's install that. Honestly, that should be a feature that should be like in baseline Unity, and I'm surprised that you had to install HDRP just to do that. But it's the same concept, and yeah, it looks like that's in their shader pipeline for HDRP, they actually considered that, and that's why, camera relative rendering is what they're calling it. So I assume take 64-bit floats and changed to local 32-bit positions relative to camera, which is, well, yeah, that's exactly what I was describing earlier, moving the universe and not the object. But it's such a simple concept that it doesn't seem like it should be something specific to HDRP. Okay, so packages, no, I still don't see a runtime in here. Yeah. Because I mean HDRP here, runtime. But there's also HDRP config runtime, shader config.cs. And then in here, I don't see the option they're talking about. This is cs.hsl, so maybe .cs. Okay, and so there's a variable, yep, camera, okay, shader options. Shader options, camera relative rendering. Okay, so this is actually something that's now toggleable. So we get to learn how to write a HDRP shader, I suppose. In this particular case, or I get to learn, I suppose. Let's see what regular shaders do in HDRP mode, I guess. But is it only compatible if I have HDRP on? Oh. Default resources, okay, and default settings, volumes, and okay, global settings. Alright, so if I go to project settings, this normally is, yeah, settings that, but we want to, that's mobile, okay, whatever. Render pipeline. I say none, what do we get? Confirm. Yeah, NetAS. PCRP, okay. Oh, nope. Default volume profile. That was, nope. Oh, we got different tabs here now. Camera, rendering. Light shader mode, we can still probably use for it. I don't care to try to learn deferred rendering in this case for this. Clear graphics buffers when enabled. HDRP clear G buffers for cameras using the frame settings set lit shader mode. Okay. Ooh, there's so much here now. Ray tracing. Okay, let's go back to our shader though. And get rid of that. Now, so this is a basic shader. Okay. Yeah, problem still persists. Yep, still a problem. we have to now. I have to now figure out how to write a shader that incorporates this, or make sure it's even like. Yeah, we still don't even. I don't even have HDRP even enabled yet. I don't think. Cool. Oh, there it is. I was like, why is the option missing? Okay, cool. Built into URP, but what? There's no converting to HDRP. This really makes me wonder after seeing some of this, though, if it is a thing in URP that there's a shader config. Let's see. Windows. Well, packages. Core RP library. Okay, core SRP core makes it easier to create custom scriptable random pipeline stuff, whatever. Or high, high definition RP. Okay. And then universal RP is a package. Okay. Let's see what's in that universal render pipeline package. Oh, config. Oh, runtime. Oh, shader config. Okay, so in there, I wonder. So I go to universal render pipeline here, runtime. I'm sorry, HDRP config runtime. And then we have this option here. That should be in shader options. I'm sorry. Yeah, camera relative rendering is 1 by default in shader config. Oh, I see. Shader config there is a different. Okay, this is the standard enum or that. Okay, so putting that to the left like that, then coming in here to SRP. Okay, shader options, shader config, shader options. Shader options, okay. And let's do camera relative rendering, and of course put that in there. Is that an enum? That's a class. This is interesting. Generate HLSL though. Okay. If I go to definition of this, oh, there isn't. This is not inheriting anything. Okay. Okay, URP and camera relative rendering. I see. And when was this post made? Okay, so it was added. It was considered to be something looked into in 2019 to be added to URP, but I have no idea if it actually made it in or not. Uh-huh. So shader options, I don't know, we could probably set it, but I have no idea if it will actually carry on into anything. And what happens? Whee! Absolutely jack squat. Okay, yeah, clearly it's still broken there. If I use Universal Render Pipeline Complexlet, it's, yeah, same problem. Advanced options, though, enable GPU instancing. Okay, but inspector highlights. Okay, but nope. Clear coat, nope. Alpha clipping, render face, yeah, front face, okay. So, okay, yeah. And nope. Nothing useful. Universal Render Pipeline lit. Okay, same deal, nothing useful. Yeah, so, yeah, nope. I guess if we can, let's see if we can switch this over to HDRP, I guess, because that's the only place it looks like we get that mode, camera relative rendering. Yeah, I don't see a way to switch to HDRP here, so let's go back to the documentation about how to switch. The wizard does not exist for switching to HDRP. But maybe I had the wrong one because it's window rendering. Yep, that's just that. But not the HDRP or render pipeline wizard. I guess the best way to approach this then is, well, this. Unity Hub will create a new project. We'll call it Exploration 2 for now. And then Universal 3D High Definition 3D Core. Okay, yep, High Definition 3D. I guess I have to download the template. Okay, cool. And then there, okay. I don't want it to connect to Unity Cloud. I don't know why that keeps... Whatever. Go! And then, of course, what we do is we just take exploration assets as scenes, testing assets, and that's it. We can take those, rip them right out of here, and put them in assets here. Whee! But we get to wait. Oh, because, yeah, now it's importing everything I just copied over or moved over. Do 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 do. It disconnected a couple times. I ran out of VRAM, I think, and that was causing the disconnect. But yeah, I'm should be wrapping up here soon for the night. But yeah, this is like I said, that prototyping exploration phase. Now we're looking at how to do certain things and how, if we can do them with different engines. And I would like to stay with Unity 6 just because of the flexibility of Unity. But I may, if I can't get this problem to work, to function, I am going to have to switch this project over to instead Unreal Engine, which is going to be nasty. And Warudo is freaking out. Wow. Okay, so here we go. HDRP says everything is all good. So I don't think I have to do anything, but it says convert all to HRP. Okay, upgrade will overwrite materials in your project. Sure, do that. Convert selected. There's none selected anyways. Okay, done. Alright, so now scenes, tests, and our distance tests. Sure, I don't even know what that is, but there we go. And I'm already seeing the problem happening, and I'm not sure if that's because of certain things. So let's try a shader. That has that option hopefully built into it. Materials. Okay, we can select all the materials. Let's see what shaders it gave us available for this. Well, what happens if we do that? That is, yeah, unlit is broken still. And if you go into project settings, HDRP options, we should see not anything that we want. Is there a way to generate a basic HDRP shader? Let's see, create shader. interesting. HDRP custom full pass or HDRP custom renders pass. Maybe full screen pass? What is this? And I guess also origin test just to add to it, see if there's anything I can pull in from the one to the other. If it's something that I need to do different. Okay. Render pipeline, HD render pipeline, and it's just, I don't know, what is this? A custom pass. Custom pass, it doesn't seem to be doing anything. It's just, okay, yeah, full screen. Nope. What if I... Yeah, I don't think it's going to have anything like that. So let's go ahead and see what built-in shaders will do under this engine. There has to be a built-in shader we can use for this. Classic standard does not work under HDRP. HDRP lit. Hey, look what we got going on there. Our problem appears to be solved. However, yeah, our textures are all wrong. Let's start filling in textures and see if that goes away. Okay, so base map. What the fuck are materials is body? That's the face, not the body. Okay, so boop. Alright. Body option. I'm not really sure what that means by that, but let's put that as the face as well. Okay. Body B is just again body. Boots. I think it's map 1. Oh, it is really shaky in its preview, but it's funny that the actual image looks fine. Oh, that's cloth. So cloth. There we go. Gloves. Another cloth to hair. Hair 2. Okay. Knee socks. Looks to be cloth, whatever. Okay, so it's already shark tail, tail. Shoe spelt wrong. Whatever, map 1 here. Oh, that would be this then. Map 1. Okay. And that's already assigned. And okay. I don't even know why I'm doing it in this way when I should be going through these materials and making sure maps are assigned to everything. That is chain. So I don't know. Chain, is there a chain? Yep, chain. Oh, everything but the thing we need on it. That's fine. Cloth. Cloth tube. Okay. Okay. Oh, this is hair up. It was hair. Yep. Okay. And yeah, there's nothing. All right. So yeah, there we have it. Shading's a little suspect. shading seems to be breaking out this distance. I wonder if that is a problem from origin. It is not. So what we sacrifice then is shading gets fucked from that distance. But let's go to a reasonable distance, 5,000. Yeah, shaders, shadows start to get fucky-wucky at this distance. But the shakes go away. The avatar itself is holding consistent to its render position and not, yeah, the outline there shaking with the artwork itself that is not having floating point precision problems. So yeah, that HDRP has it built in to handle that, which is interesting. The downsides look like though that there's still other parts of the engine that aren't being moved to camera space, but the fact that it can move everything to camera space for rendering is good. So yeah, that's it's looking the same overall, but it looks like we're gonna have to write definitely our own custom HDRP shaders for this game, and if we use HDRP. People hate HDRP, but and it can be definitely slower. Let's see what happens if we actually hit run on this. I should have done performance tests. Like I should have kept it on the other one and done a performance test between the two. Yeah, 300 and some. Where is that? Where is that? What's happening to that when I hit play? What the hell did it do? What? Why is the camera completely in a different place than that? Oh. Oh, that would be why. Yeah, these frame times are atrocious. It should be definitely doing more than 300 FPS right now if it's rendering just this avatar. I guess what we can do here is actually go back to the go.test one and grab that out of there, since I should have all that tied in still. And then paste that in here so that way, yeah, I have that back. What we're gonna do is same deal with exploration, open it up. So what we have here, and I'll even note it in chat, we got, with this running, oh, we need everything in scene. Okay, we got about 290 FPS. We'll just throw that in there, 290 FPS. That is terribly low. It definitely should be higher than that. Man, let's go ahead and save that. Open up regular exploration, which is URP. Alright, so I'm gonna have to probably recreate the scene a little bit. So let's grab Bruni out and put her into position. There we go. Okay. And like, yeah, rotate her around, of course. Put her at 0, -1, 1. Okay, so we got in the game. Okay, game camera is that. And then our camera, whatever. Yeah, it doesn't really matter in this case. We can go ahead and save this into test. There's our stats. Hit play. Roughly the same, actually. So something is bottlenecking the editor, essentially, causing it to hit a 290 some 300 FPS cap of some kind. It's probably the engine itself, like saying, "Hey, there's probably actually just something hard capping it in general." Yeah, I don't know. I think it will be okay. HDRP is definitely rough, definitely more difficult to work with. But I think, having a scripted rendered pipeline anyways would probably be better. But then we have to do all this stuff to make HDRP not be as terrible and work in the ways that we would want it to. Let's see if we can get a performance rating of it rendering, though, in Unreal. I don't think it really necessarily matters, but that's how we'll finish off tonight, is just checking the other engines and what their performances are. And Pumpkin, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to kill your iCore because you are chewing up a lot of memory, and even though I don't even have you talking anyways. Not at the moment, at least. But definitely for your hearing, let us lower that model down in size. There we go, so she's not chewing up so much memory on my PC. Okay, so Unreal test. Let's open that up real quick. And there should be a camera actor here. Why is it disabled? I don't know. No details appearing for it. Is there a problem with it? Did something not save correctly? What is going on? What happens if I hit... Oh, there it goes. It just took a hot minute to load. Oh, I now have a simulation mode. Okay, but camera. This doesn't help. It probably can't really show us. I can tell you the first problem though is that it's definitely more memory intensive, and it looks like the shadows aren't even actually better. It's grainy. That might be because of a previous system or the way a shadow system is doing whatever. But I think if we go Unreal Engine, we may get nicer looking stuff, but it's going to be a heavier editor to work with. And Godot. Oh, that's weird. Where'd the application go? Why does it want to search for it? very bizarre. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know why that didn't, I don't know what it's doing. Okay, so if we hit, what play in this? Some very strange stuff happens there for sure. And I do not see, yeah, I don't see what's going on there. Yeah, and then Godot is going to take me a huge learning curve to figure out. So I guess, for engine, for this game, I'm gonna stick with what I know, for sure, and I think we're gonna stick with Unity, since I know we can render, and apparently there is no performance difference between the old and the new, or URP and HDRP. So I think we'll stick with HDRP with Unity 6, and that wraps it up. Yeah, I'll poke at things more over the week. And next week, hopefully, we can move on to the next phase of, planning and testing things. And yeah, I'm gonna want to look at starting to write a shader and how to write a shader. So I'll probably be doing that over the week. That is a specific HDRP shader, and how to gain control over the renderer and what it's doing. But also maybe figure out ways to fine-tune HDRP in a way that will benefit the engine overall, or the game overall, that is. And yeah, that's tonight. I'll see everyone next week. I have Pumpkin say goodnight, but she's a little dead ass at the moment. Hopefully next week I can get her using smaller models so she's not chewing up so much memory at VRAM. Good night, Pumpkin, and good night,